As a kid in school, I think that the last time I got a perfect score in a test was in the second grade. It's not that I wasn't a good student or anything like that. My teacher always said I have a lot of potential. You know this, right? It's just that I wasn't so good with tests or learning or paying attention to what the teacher said. Anyway, recently I had an interesting project of building a new website for my startup Common Ninja. It's a marketing website that showcases all of the features and products we offer. Since I wanted a modern architecture and good results in terms of loading time, performance, and SEO, I decided to go with the flow and build this website with GatsbyJS. And the results, without paying special attention to anything, the new website got some perfect score in best practices, 90 in SEO, 85 and 86 in performance and accessibility. Not bad, right? My name is Daniel Sternlicht. I'm a Frontend Guild Master here at Outbrain, and today I wanted to give you a quick intro to GatsbyJS. But before talking about Gatsby, let's understand the problem they are trying to solve. Let's take a simple website architecture. You have a client, a server, and a database. The client makes requests to the server in order to get the content for the page. The server goes to the database, fetch some data, process it, and return ready-to-use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file to the client. We all know this architecture. Everything works smoothly and as expected until your website goes viral. Users are flocking to your website, the traffic is high, which lead to a few issues we know, such as database becoming a bottleneck, the backend language you chose is slow, security breaches could be found, etc. Obviously, all of these issues are solvable by scaling databases, optimizing performance, adding some cache mechanism, implementing security best practices, but all of this might cost a lot of money and time. One solution might be a simple front-end app, aka a single-page application, that serves static files and fetch the data dynamically from the server. But the problem with this approach is mostly in terms of performance and SEO. Search engines are not indexing dynamic content, and if they are, it has some limitations. A solution for the SEO problem might be server-side rendering, SSR. You prefetch the data of a page on the server side, which return a ready-to-use HTML page with all of the content. A few known frameworks out there could be Next, Nest, and Nuxt. Each one integrates with another front-end framework. The main issue with this approach is still performance. SSR is an expensive process that might slow down your website loading time. Another solution is static site generator, SSG. And today I wanted to focus on one of them called Gatsby or GatsbyJS. So first thing first, what's Gatsby? Quoting from the official website, Gatsby is a React-based open source framework for creating websites and apps. When browsing Gatsby's website, I think that the word they emphasize the most is fast. I actually counted how many times this word appeared in their homepage, and I reached 13. And the reason it is so fast is because Gatsby is a static site generator. Unlike the single-page application approach that makes an API call as you run the app, Gatsby does all of the data fetching, including data sourcing from local files during build time. All this data is then used to generate static HTML, JavaScript, and CSS files, and the static rendering methodology is what makes things work so fast. So if we look at Gatsby architecture, we see that it fetches data from any data source you want, including CMS such as WordPress, Drupal, etc. It could take data from a Markdown and API. It does everything in build time, which then generates static files you can deploy to any static web host such as Amazon S3, Netlify, Heroku, and even potentially directly to CDN. You may build with Gatsby basically any website you want, from blogs to e-commerce, marketing, and business websites, really anything. A few examples of who is using Gatsby. So among companies and websites who are using Gatsby, you'll find react.js.org, TypeScript, Airbnb, Figma, Spotify, PayPal, IBM, Meetup, Common Ninja, and more. But still, there is one elephant in the room. Isn't going back to static site is a step back from dynamic website and single page application? The answer is, well, not necessarily. First of all, in terms of security, static websites data is much more secure than in dynamic websites, since we load the data in build time when it is not exposed to the user. Secondly, Rather than relying on servers and databases to generate pages dynamically, you pre-render all of them in build time. And potentially you may use CDNs for blazing fast and smooth experience for users all around the globe. But if you still want your website to be dynamic, here's the most fun part. Since Gatsby is a React-based framework and using React SSR under the hood, you may combine both static and dynamic content in your website. Let's take, for instance, the showcase page in Common Ninja, which is a gallery of plugins created by users. For the initial state of the page, Gatsby loads some data in build time from a RESTful API and created a static page that loads some script. React is one of them. React integrates flawlessly into the website, so when you click the Load More button, it acts as a single page application. It requests data from the same API and loads it dynamically into the page. That's cool, right? And if that's not cool enough, there is more. You can use any of the packages you've already been using with NPM, particularly with React packages, as it was built on the same library. In addition, there's a large number of plugins, starters, and transformers built by the Gatsby community. You almost never come to the point where you actually have to build your own tool or module. The community already offers a huge number of plugins that suits every need. Using these, Gatsby can be extendable with additional functionality. For instance, a couple of examples include responsive images, offline functionality, source data from CMS, and data markup format, adding third-party services such as Google Analytics, etc., and so on. Regarding styling, Gatsby has a built-in support in SCSS and CSS in JS libraries, allowing you to manage style better, and setup for this is fairly easy to handle with the installation of a plugin or a package. Same goes to TypeScript. If you want, you may install the Gatsby plugin TypeScript package, so you could write in TypeScript. Another thing, GraphQL is a first-class citizen in Gatsby, and you'll use it in order to access data. Later on, we'll see it in action. And last but not least, I think that one of the strongest advantages of Gatsby is their community and extremely detailed documentation, with examples, videos, best practices, and everything needed in order to build a website with Gatsby. So just to summarize, Gatsby is a static site generator. Under the hood, it uses Node.js, GraphQL, and React. Primary benefits are speed, security, and development experience, and it has a stable and growing community. Talk is cheap, show me the code. So now, hopefully, I convince you that Gatsby is great. Let's see how to use it. Like every countable JS framework, Gatsby also has CLI needed to be installed. Running npm install -g Gatsby CLI will install the Gatsby package globally. Once installed, you may create a new Gatsby app by running Gatsby new hello, the name of your app, browsing to this folder and run npm start. And let's go quickly over the file structure the generated project has. Some notable files and folder and their definition. So we start with the source folder. We have 3 subfolders there: components, images, and pages. Components will be used as a folder that contains some essential components that were created by default, like header and layout. Here you want to put your own reusable components. Images, obviously, contains images for your websites. And pages, these are static website pages. Each file and folder you add here will automatically become a page in your app. Next, we have 4 different config files. Each has its own purpose. Let's go over them quickly. Gatsby config.js will be used to configure options for a Gatsby site with metadata for the project title, descriptions, plugins you want to add to your Gatsby project, etc. Gatsby Node, you'll use that to implement Gatsby Node.js APIs to customize and extend default settings affecting the build process. Here you'll be able to create pages programmatically. And Gatsby Browser.js for customizing and extending default settings affecting the browser using Gatsby browser APIs, and Gatsby SSR. If you want to customize the default setting affecting server-side rendering, this is where you want to do it. All right, so now that we know how a project basic structure looks like, we'll run the development server by running npm start. And without adding any code, you may see the different build steps and how much time each one takes. You may see that the build validates the config file, loads plugins, copies some files, and creates pages on the fly. After the build ends, you'll get two links. One is for the app, which will reload automatically every time you make a code change. And the other one is for GraphQL. Remember that I told you that Gatsby uses GraphQL to access data. So here you may find the different data entities to your app that your app currently using, and dynamically build queries to explore them. So let's take, for instance, the all file entity, go to nodes, and we'll mark public URL. Okay, running this query, we'll get a list of static files being used by the app. Once you load data to your app, it will also be accessible here, and again, we'll see it in the workshop. Going back to the first link, let's take a look at our website that has been generated by default. So we have 4 pages here. You have the home page, you have page 2, you have the go to using TypeScript page example, and we have the 404 page that will be loaded by default if Gatsby cannot find any page. If we go to the code, and we can see that each page is a React-based page. Okay, it's simply a React component, and they have some other component they are using, such as links, or you can see a component called layout or SEO. We'll be using link for routing between pages and SEO for controlling SEO tags. As I said, every time we change something in the code, the app will be refreshed automatically. So let's take index page, for instance. We'll add here an emoji, hit save, and we should see the change here. Okay, so that's it for now. Hopefully, you have some basic understanding of what Gatsby is and how it works, and how to create a new Gatsby app. Now we are moving to the workshop where we'll learn how to generate static website with Gatsby using a Medium blog as data source. I was Daniel Sternlicht. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm available on all social platforms. Thank you.